Welcome back to my complete review of the entire Friday the 13th series. If you didn't see my first part, please click here. I try to make it as simplistic as possible. I kick off part 2 with Friday the 13th, part 7, The New Blood. This is when the series sorta completely, absolutely ran out of ideas. By this part, Jason's immortal. He can't die. There's no chance for teens or the counselors to actually fight back. How do we keep the tension and the momentum going without him just walking into a camp and just slaughtering anyone? I know. Let's add telekinetic powers. That's right, we follow a little girl. I guess she's not that little. She's like a teenager who has telekinetic powers, and she lives on the lake. She doesn't go to the camp. She just happens to live on the lake. We see her in a couple psychiatry meetings. We explore her powers kind of little by little. And then at the end, she fights Jason with her powers. Friday 13 part 7 is god fucking boring, to be completely honest. It's not until the final battle, which is even like shot very dully, as they show that she can kind of communicate with her dad who died in the lake. There's a couple of flashbacks, and he fell into the lake when she was a little girl, and she's been sort of communicating to her dad. Her and Jason, they're fighting, and she's losing. So I'm watching this, and I think to myself, the one thing that can redeem this film is if her zombie dad jumps out of the water and fights Jason. And it actually happened. Her zombie dad jumps through the pier, grabs Jason, and pulls him down into the water and just like kind of wrestles him to the bottom of the lake. It's not a particularly exciting fight, but I was just so goddamn bored. And that was the only thing in my head that could rejuvenate this entire movie and make it worth watching. And that's sort of what happened. And this film ends with Jason chained to the bottom of the lake. And the chick with telekinetic powers just keeps on living. You think a girl with telekinetic powers would be a good adversary for the film, and one that would return. You had Alice from the first film, who came back in part 2. You had Tommy, who came back fifth film and the sixth film, and you think, hey, this girl is a worthy adversary. She should return and have another brawl with Jason. Does that happen in Friday the 13th part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan? No, it doesn't. But what does happen is probably the most comically hilarious proceedings out of any of the films. This one is the only film in the series that I would categorize as so bad that it's good. First off, Jason doesn't get to Manhattan until about the third act. The first two acts, you might ask, where do those take place? On a cruise boat, not really a cruise boat, just more kind of like an industrial boat, full of high school students going to Manhattan. I guess Jason was a really big fan of The Lonely Island. And this film, though very entertaining, tries to give a lot of character motivations that fall flat. You have one character who's scared of drowning on a boat and actually gets thrown into the water. She doesn't want to go on this trip in the first place, but because her teacher gives her a fucking pen, she feels compelled to join. You have another character whose dad is the boat captain. He dies, and he must fulfill his destiny of becoming a captain and steer the ship to safety. What a triumphant character arc. They kind of use the bad shit premise to just get kind of as weird as they possibly could. Like the girl that feels compelled to go into the hull of the boat and play guitar, hoping that another person will come down and film her shredding. But they do get to Manhattan, and I must say, I wasn't born or around in the 80s, but was New York really that fucked up in the 80s? They make New York look like the most terrifying place to be in ever. There's just rapists and killers and thieves just running around in the dirtiest goddamn streets I've ever seen. Yeah, I know it's filmed in actually Toronto, but still, it looks disgusting. You have the boombot scene. There's some nice rascallions playing some beats on their boombots. Jason kicks it over. They yell at him. He shows them his hideously deformed face. They scream, and then he walks away. It brings up a couple questions, like I didn't know Jason, could choose. That shows a little too much more like self-aware and control in Jason movements that I wasn't aware that he possessed. There's this 30-minute scene where they just run through the tunnels. It feels like 30 minutes. It goes on so long. Where they run, they think they lost him. He comes back. They run. He comes back. And then I guess they're triumphant at the end. They defeated Jason and they made it to New York. I don't know how it ended, but it's definitely one of the most watchable films in this series. Now, between Jason Takes Manhattan and Jason Goes to Hell, there is about a 5-year gap between the two films, which is the biggest gap that this series has ever taken, mostly due to New Line acquiring the rights to use the character Jason. I don't think they're allowed to use the Friday the 13th name since they dropped that entirely from the title. And what they chose to do with Jason was to kill him off and have his spirit travel into other people. You get this new property, you're excited to implement him on the screen, and you killed the mascot of the series and then just have an orb go into other characters. And Jason does actually show up again in the end for a cool fight scene with a character that you sort of care about. And the SWAT comes and they shoot him a whole bunch. He's dismembered and shit. And then the ground kind of eats him. I was actually more looking forward to a film where Jason's dead. He goes to hell and then he fights his way back into our mortal world, which is sort of what happens. We just don't get to see the hell part. He gets sucked into the ground. The official title for this film is Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, which is a little annoying because you tried the final thing before and it wasn't really the final thing, and this is the first film in a new movie studio, so why would it be the final one? That was pretty much just thrown on there to get people in the theater. Probably the best part of this film is a teaser at the end. It's implemented very well, and it comes sort of out of nowhere. Is Jason's mask is just lying in the gravel, and all of a sudden Freddy Krueger's hand pops out, grabs the mask, and pulls it into hell. I would assume watching that in theater, you'd be like, great, we're going to get Freddy versus Jason film nets, right? Right? Well, it took New Line 9 years to make another film starring Jason, and it was Jason X. This film is not as bad as Friday the 13th Part 3, but this film makes me the most angry I have ever been watching a film ever. I can't even enjoy it in a campy sense. It's so bad. It feels like a ripoff of Firefly and Alien Resurrection, which is the worst Alien film, which already felt like a ripoff of other sci-fi films. And it's done in the cheapest way possible. I mean, look at this set. They just blacked out the background because they didn't fucking have a background. You have an android character that gets souped up into a mega android babe because I guess they watched Resident Evil before they made this film. And she fucking gets... Jason gets blown to shit, and then the computer takes nanobots and reshapes him and gives him a silver spacey body. There's one scene I do sort of enjoy in this, and it's the holodeck camp scene. He smashes the sleeping bag into the tree. The problem is that they made the women topless because apparently the holodeck is a sets toy. The rest of the film, it's just so dumb. It's so bad. It's not even fun. It's not fun anymore. It's just dumb. But the year later, and this is the only Friday the 13th film I've actually seen in theaters. I was 10 years old, so I don't know if that explains anything about me. Freddy versus Jason. I was so pumped up as a kid. I loved the Nightmare on Elm Street films. I liked the Friday 13th films, I guess. I don't know, I was 10. But this is definitely the showdown that people have speculated about, people have been wanting ever since New Line acquired Jason. It's really weird that it took them 10 years from Jason Goes to Hell to Freddy vs. Jason to get this film made. Of course, we have Robert Englund as Freddy. Who else could play him? Nobody. We have Catherine Isabella, which I don't think I need to explain why that makes me happy. I mean, come on. And we have Chris Marquette, who's that guy who's been in other films, like Fanboys. And he was in Girl Next Door? Was that him? What happened to him? Is he still making films? This film is gory. It's probably the bloodiest Friday 13th film, where you have heads getting cut off and then just blood squirting out everywhere. The kind of reasoning for them to meet up is believable enough. I kind of like that Freddy invades Jason's dreams as his mother to convince Jason to go to Elm Street and start killing kids in order for them to think it's Freddy and to start fearing Freddy again so he can gain his strength and then start haunting people again. Then Freddy gets like mad that Jason's killing all these people, and so he decides to kill Jason. Okay, well, when I say it out loud, it sounds kind of dumb. And while this is happening, there's kids driving around with Jason in a van that's incapacitated because they want Jason to win, but Jason's gonna kill them. That's what he does. He's a killer. Anyways, there's the final showdown, which I actually kind of like. It's cool. You have two horror icons fighting, and it's not like a quick teaser. It's not like a thing that just happens. It feels like a full-on brawl. But then we get the cop-out teaser bullshit ending. So you have Jason holding Freddy's dead head going into the lake. And what do the filmmakers end on? Freddy winking. I mean, I was satisfied, but I was also 10. So, take that as you will. Finally, we are at the end of the films thus far with the 2009 Friday the 13th reboot, produced by Michael Bay's studio Platinum Dunes, who've had such great success at rebooting horror franchises such as these. But out of all of those, I would say that this reboot's kind of the most successful. I like Jason in this film. Jason was portrayed really cool-like. The film opens with a montage of the first film, so we completely skip Jason's mother and the beheading, which happens apparently exactly like it did in the first film, and we just kick off in the second film with Jason with his mask on. This film also had some pretty notable actors such as Jared Padalecki, who's pretty well known for Supernatural, Danielle Panabaker, who is doing terrific on The Flash as Caitlin Snow, Erin Wu, who's been in those films, and of course Ryan Hansen, who I completely love from Party Down, and I believe he was in Veronica Mars. Yeah, he was. The problem is they're all TV actors, and that's not to discredit TV actors. It's just that TV actors don't always make the best transitions into movie actors, especially when the whole film is riding on them. Now, this film sort of feels like what everyone thinks the Friday the 13th series is in their mind. And this film is just chock full of nudity, swearing, drug use, and just bloody gore, which I'm fine with the last one. It almost feels like you're reducing a series that's already a cheap cash-in, so you're reducing it even lower to the low bar that it's already set for itself. That being said, I do like the aspect of what does Jason do when camp's not in session? Apparently, he has an underground bunker. There's sort of hints of him having like a shrine to his mother in the second film, but it was in like a shack that just had like a bed, where this is like a whole underground tunnel system. Almost like he completely took over the camp and made it his own. It sort of gives a plausible reason to how he gets across the camp so fast, and brought an interesting aspect to the mythology of Jason. This film fails on a character level, fails on a story level, but brings very interesting aspects to the character of Jason Voorhees that I actually appreciated and liked as a huge fan of the series. So in the back half of the films, I would say Friday 13th Part 7, don't watch. Part 8, I think is very watchable. Jason Goes to Hell, watch it for the novelty of it and the teaser in the end. Jasonettes, Freddy vs. Jason, watch it. You should at least watch it once if you like both series. The 2009 remake, I'd probably say watch that too if you want an updated version. So those are my thoughts on the Friday the 13th series as a whole. It's had its high points for the series and it's had some shit low points. But overall, there's something about that hockey mask and the lake that's like will forever be ingrained in my personality. Hopefully you use this as a guide to know which films to watch and which films to avoid. Tell me which ones are your favorites. Tell me which ones you absolutely hate. My name's Grayson Todd. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, whatever you want, and check back here for more whatever's on reviews.